Hey everyone, we're going to talk about gold staying in that very healthy bracket where it's trading at. It's had a fantastic last, 5, 6, 7 years. But we're also going to talk to it in regards to, the election coming up. We're going to try to keep away from most of the politics part of it, but it's interesting because there is a lot to talk about on that side note. But from an economic point of view, and from a gold point of view, and from what we expect from the markets, um, we should kind of bring up the latest news that Reuters had reported that Trump had said that he was considering Jamie Dimon for the Treasury. Jamie Dimon, of course, the CEO of JP Morgan, has done an incredible job over at JP Morgan, was actually penned in as a possibility by Barack Obama. Yeah, definitely more than qualified. It has done an incredible job over at JP Morgan. I certainly don't agree with everything that Jamie Dimon believes in, or certainly not any leader, and nor should anyone. I mean, it shouldn't even have to be said that we have all that much alignment. And as long as we're, pretty close 50-50, we need to get more into that space of being more reasonable about things anyway. It's an interesting discussion because Jamie Dimon is a Democrat. So if Trump had made the announcement that he was considering him, that reaches across the aisle. It's pretty good. He certainly would know the space, but it's also a threat to Powell, where Trump is kind of flexing. Although Trump was happy to have Powell in at the start of his presidential election, didn't quite like him into it because of rates and whatnot. They kind of bashed heads. Of course, Powell has no intention of leaving once his term limit is up. We'll see. In any event, it's news. It's a bit of drama. But what makes it a bit more interesting is Jamie Dimon has said some tough stuff about him, and he's called Jamie Dimon a highly overrated globalist. So they've not necessarily gotten along very well. But at the same time, there's a quote here from Jamie Dimon, and it's worth stating. He said, "Take a step back, be honest. Trump, was kind of right about NATO, kind of right about immigration. He grew the economy quite well. Trade tax reform worked. He was right about some of China. He wasn't wrong about some of these critical issues." So that's actually huge praise coming from someone like Jamie Dimon, who is a Democrat as well. And once again, this is not to promote one side or the other. It's just that there is change coming. It's certainly in Canada, we know change is coming. And I think the writing's on the wall in the US as well. And we need to look at is what are the thoughts on what that's going to look like specifically for gold. And right now, I mean, I think most people would agree that gold is not moving. It's not going to go down in anything. And let's just stick on JP Morgan. Let's look at their forecasts. They're hoping for gold to hit 2,500 in the fourth quarter of 2024 and 2,600 in 2025. So that would be very conservative, I would say. I mean, there's lots of room for both gold and silver. But that acknowledgement by JP Morgan should give people a little bit of stability in their decision making as holding gold, because regardless of who takes in power, the money's already been spent. Trillions and trillions were printed and spent. That's done. It's unlikely either side is going to come in and come to like hard and go, we need to fix all this. Some of it's arguably unfixable. So what the solutions are going to be, we'll wait and see. And we certainly know that some of the economic decisions that Trump will have will be different, and some will be very much the same. But that will have, either way, will have a positive effect on gold, regardless. And it doesn't, whether it's Kamala who gets in, certainly gold is going to go through the roof. And even if Trump comes in, gold is still going to do very, very well because people see a flight to safety. Now, into a change of administration, if things tended to calm down, yeah, you might see things go differently. But even rates coming down is more advantageous towards gold as well. So we see in gold that it is, to know surprise, led by China. It's central banks that are the main buyers of gold. And that's whenever I talk to people, is just like your own individual relationships, the talking part isn't as useful as the actual actions. They always say, they'll say one thing and then do something else. What someone does is what they do. So you listen less and watch more for what the actual result is. So we see that these countries, especially the BRICS nations, are piling up on gold. There's a reason for that. And there's a reason why it doesn't get a lot of promotion out there. It's getting a bit more. We tend to focus on the cryptos and the Bitcoins and all that other stuff as being some type of asset like gold. It's not. Otherwise, all of these other federal institutions would be piling in. Now that leads into the huge conversation that Peter Schiff is the best at doing, and you should always look at Peter Schiff. He's definitely a gold bug. He's got great perspective, and he's certainly on one side of the spectrum. You can look at the Michael Saylor from the other very far side of the spectrum with a Bitcoin. But all of these things are, I think when we look at the change that's going on, the massive need for energy, the massive need for critical metals and mining, the massive need for some stability, gold and silver, these look very, very positive moving forward. And it's great to see banks like JP Morgan paying more attention to this story because it isn't glamorous. I mean, it's even whenever I first started at Merrill Lynch, the thought of having like the gold bugs and the miners at 2001 during that tech phase, I just thought, why are they here? I had no idea. And that's probably how most of the population looks at mining. They don't really get it. They don't understand. And they're only told that it's terrible and it's awful for the environment. And it's this, they don't realize that every single solution that you want for the climate change agenda, that comes from mining. All of it. All those critical metals comes from mining. And that I'll wrap up just quickly because there's lots to debate and talk about and share ideas about. Is that there was a report that came out, and we hinted that there was talks about a Bureau of Mines to come alive again in the U.S. I believe the last mine was 2002. I just saw something come out today, and the average span between finding a deposit and then production in the U.S. to making a mine is 29 years. It's the second worst on the planet, next to Zambia. It's 34 years. That's a long time. If you're desperately needing critical metals and you believe in supply chain and that you maybe shouldn't be shipping things on bunker fuel on tankers across oceans to China to process to send right back. If you want to build up a chip sector, a nuclear reactor, an energy narrative, solar batteries on it, that means you need a ton of critical metals and resources. And that means, like for the US, permitting needs to come down to like a couple years. Not 29. In Canada, they say it's roughly 17 to 19, somewhere around there. Once again, what you really need to do if you want to measure up and align what people are saying about climate and the need for all these solutions is not matching up with the business. It just simply is not. Now, that could be marketing. It could be a lot of different reasons, but you don't see what you'd have to see, which is massive investment into mining, to junior mining, which is the R&D, to try to get these resources to end users. We just see a lot of talk about chips and solar farms. Both of those things require immense amounts of this new energy and immense amounts of critical metals that are just simply not going to be there. And the more that we can come to terms with that, the better. And also, the more we get away from the not in my backyard attitude, the better as well. You want to have a say. You want to have it in your state where you can say, this has to be done to this standard and I demand it. If you just leave it for going somewhere offshore where you don't have to think about it anymore, then you don't believe in the climate narrative. You don't. So there has to be some honesty that comes into the conversation. Love to have that conversation with you. Reach out to us, tell us your thoughts, and let's chat some more.